Hello and welcome to Tech Radar's iPhone 8 review. Now this is the new iPhone, but it's not all new. It's very similar to the iPhone 7 with a few key upgrades. Number one, it's got a glass back. Now that allows wireless charging, but it is glass. Apple says it's strong, but is it enough? We've got another colour in gold. We've got the silver version here, but there's a gold version as well. And it's a little bit tweaked up in terms of the engine power underneath and the camera as well. But are these enough of an upgrade to really warrant the jump over the iPhone 7? Right, so let's talk about the design and the screen. And on paper, it's very similar to the iPhone 7. You've got a 720p 4.7-inch display. You've got the same chassis shape, which means that your cases will still fit from the iPhone 7. And essentially, it looks very similar. If you're used to the iPhone, this could be mistaken for the iPhone 6, really, given the fact there's not too much change in the design stakes. But there are some key changes to the design that do make this feel like the most premium iPhone on the market right now. The glass back does make a difference in the hand. You can feel the join between the glass and the metal, and that does feel different. Again, it looks different as well. When you look at the back of the phone, there's a different gloss to it. It doesn't have that quite metal ceramic feel, and again, changes things in the hand. The screen as well, while it is the same resolution and the same size, it's got True Tone technology inside. Now that means that it will take the ambient lighting conditions and match it a little bit. So the same way when you read a book, the different light hitting it would create a different colour of white. The same thing happens here. And that is a little bit nicer. We've got this improved colour gamut as well. The screen itself is just a little bit sharper in terms of the way everything's put together. And so you are getting a slightly improved experience, but not that much over the iPhone 7. Right, let's talk internals and how this phone works in the hand. Now the iPhone 8, like the 8 Plus, has the A11 Bionic chip, and that really makes things faster. In fact, it's one of the most powerful chipsets on the market. In day-to-day use, it's not going to make that much of a difference unless you're really hammering that photo manipulation or doing lots of video exporting, that kind of thing. If you're just taking day-to-day apps as the use, well, you're not going to find that much of a difference, but in 2 years' time, this phone will still be chugging along much better than the iPhone 7, which has a demonstrably slower chipset. In terms of the upgrades that iOS 11 brings, well, it is the same on most of the new iPhones, going back a few years now, but it looks the best on the Apple iPhone 8. The reason for this is obviously that Bionic chip again, really keeping things going powerfully under the finger, but also the 3D touch has been improved as well. So when you're doing things like opening the torch in the control center, you'll get far more from pushing in, which hasn't been there before and is a real upgrade. Now these are small tweaks that won't make a big difference day to day, but over time you'll find they really do improve the experience of using the iPhone, and they work the best on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. Now, one of the key things that Apple has always been great for with its iPhones is the multimedia experience, and there have been some enhancements there as well. The dual speakers, which fire from the earpiece and the bottom, have been improved to be 25% louder according to Apple, and we have noticed that they are louder and a little bit more bass rich. There's still no headphone jack on the bottom, which, let's be honest, we didn't expect to come back, so you are limited to using Bluetooth cans or the earpods in the box, which come with a lightning connector, or sticking that adapter, which also comes in the box underneath as well. So in terms of the gaming experience on the phone, it isn't the sharpest because Apple hasn't rammed as many pixels in there, but you will get a good feeling when you're gaming day to day. Right, let's talk about the camera on the iPhone 8, and while this is the most disappointing area of the phone, it doesn't mean it's got a bad camera. If you're taking pictures in good light outside in the sunlight, you're going to get some fantastic snaps. The focal range, the autofocus, all of these are really decent, but there's no dual snapper on there. There's no dual lens like there is on the iPhone 8 Plus. Now this is actually just a better camera. It gives you focal length, it gives you just that better experience, and it's just overall a nicer experience in terms of the camera. Now this iPhone 8 just has the single snapper sensor on the back, and it just feels like, why didn't Apple push this a little bit further? This is an expensive phone still, don't forget. While it isn't as expensive as say the iPhone X or the iPhone 10, it is still going to be costing you a lot of money, so we expect it to have at least 2 sensors on there like we get with phones of a much lower cost. Now if you forget about that, the snaps you do get are generally very good. In low light, it's a little bit hit and miss, you can take some duds, but if you work a little bit harder, you can get some good shots even in near darkness. In fact, the only criticism we'd really have is the fact that the exposure can be a little bit pointy, which means that when you're taking a picture of something that's averagely lit, it will be exposed up a little bit, and that can result in some things being washed out. Now, one of the key upgrades here is that it's got Apple's A11 Bionic chipset inside, which has its own image processor. This does things like draw out the texture of certain shots and really adds that wow factor to some of your snaps. Now, one of the things that Apple has changed this year for the iPhone 8 is it's dropped one of the storage sizes. You can now have the 64GB version or the 256GB version. There's quite a big difference in the cost. Previously, we had an 128GB version in the middle, and this would have been really nice for the iPhone 8 because we have the ability to record 4K in 60 frames per second, and that can really fill up the internal storage. So it's a shame Apple hasn't offered that as an option here, but perhaps it wasn't selling as well, so we kind of see why it's been dropped. The other big difference with the iPhone 8 over the iPhone X or 10 or the iPhone 8 Plus is there's only 2GB of RAM. Now day to day we didn't notice too much of a slowdown with that, but if you want the most powerful iPhone, the 8 isn't it. Sadly, one thing has remained on the iPhone 8 from previous devices, and that's a battery life that just doesn't match up to the whole day. Now, we're used to a lot of Android phones on the market being able to last well over a day with a single charge, and the iPhone sadly can't do that. We found that sort of towards the end of the day, maybe if you're leaving work at 5-6 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd be thinking, I should probably top this up just a little bit just in case. Now, it does have wireless charging, which is what that glass back is all about, and that does make a big difference. If you've bought yourself a wireless charging pad, you can leave the phone down on that when you're at work or at home and in bed, wherever you want to have your charging going on. And it will juice it up quite easily. You can just pick up the phone and put it back down again. It is simple and it is convenient. But if you don't have that, again, you are going to find that the battery will slip down a little bit too much. And if you're thinking, I want a really good battery life, well, the iPhone 8 Plus is probably the way to go. It's not really good, but it is markedly better. So that's the Apple iPhone 8, and it's much the same we've seen before. It looks very similar to the iPhone 7, 6S and 6, and has some slight upgrades. That glass back is nicer, the speed inside is better, the camera does capture a little bit more finer detail, but overall, this just feels like another S variant from Apple. It's definitely not the iPhone X or 10 that we're really excited about seeing later this year. However, it is a solid iPhone. If you're coming from the 6S, for instance, this is the phone to go for because you're getting the same in-hand experience, it's easily reachable, but you're not breaking the bank and going for the iPhone 8 Plus, for instance. So that's the iPhone 8. It's a slightly fancy looking phone with a more powerful core. Thank you for watching this video from TechRadar. If you want to find out more about this new phone, we have a very extensive review for you to watch, and please keep it locked to TechRadar for all your phone needs.